The solution that is most often not known when they come to me, but is most often very successful with the entrepreneurs I serve, is the emotional freedom technique, which is putting your hands in very specific places on the body to calm the central nervous system. But now, someone cuts me off in traffic, I'm the crazy lady. I don't care who sees me do this.
Let's repeat the non-conformist oath. I promise to be different. I promise to be unique. I promise not to repeat things other people say.
Welcome back to another episode of Positive Blatherings, and it's been a long hiatus, but well, we're back at it. It's now 2026, and I decided I have all these conversations with all these great people, and I really should start sharing them with folks. And I'm very excited about today's guest because, well, she's pretty special, and she was in here and recorded an audiobook. And so I was like the first person to get to listen to this audiobook, and the audiobook is absolutely amazing, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you're a business person. This is the book for you. So let me introduce to you Raeanne Lacatena. She is a licensed clinical social worker, certified professional coach, best-selling author of The Integrated Entrepreneur, Actualize Your Potential and Fulfill Your Purpose. And she's also a co-author of Cracking the Rich Code, which was endorsed by a little-known guy. You may have heard of him, maybe not, Tony Robbins. Welcome to The Blathering.
Thanks for having me. I think it was about a year ago.
Has it been a year?
I think so,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
I know that flew by, but I was thinking on the way over here, yeah, I think it was January of last year that we recorded.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I
Well,
know.
that's good timing then.
I know, a little anniversary episode.
Yeah, exactly. So you have an interesting, a little bit different approach to coaching in the business world.
I do.
Because you are incorporating things that typically, I don't even know how to put it. That it's like some people call it woo-woo. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because because you're talking about manifesting, you're talking about mindset, you're talking, using principles from the law of attraction and things like that, which I know there are a lot of people who don't believe in that, and it's too bad for them.
Yeah.
Because granted, I haven't been working with you, but I have been working with a coach for the last year, and so I have a tremendous amount of respect for what you do because it is so necessary for anyone who, if you're a human being, you should want to continue to learn and want to continue to grow.
Ideally.
And aspire to get better
Yeah.
at whatever it is you do, and also at interacting with other human beings and how you treat people. So that's kind of when I was listening to you read the book, which you did a great job. She's an author and she can do voiceovers now because she's
You got lots of practice that week.
Yeah. It's an interesting process, isn't it?
It's way different than I imagined it being. Yeah, it was way more labor intensive. I'm a singer, and so I thought, I was like, I got this back in the booth. And it was not like that at all.
That's right. And you do touch on your singing past and a lot of that, how it created, it sort of pushed you into what you're doing now, that whole experience. But and we'll go back, we'll go into your past in a little while. But so basically, I always like to find out what gets people down the path that they're on right now. And at the basis of it all, you want to help people. That's really the nitty gritty. You want to try to help people to be better. Yeah. So what was it in your past, or what was it that brought you to that? Have you always been a helping person, always been eager to help people in whatever way?
I always, yes. Ever since I was a little tiny girl, I had a very mixed, blended family. I had a little brother who I took care of when I was little. I felt good when I was helping, even when I was tiny. It was something that I was praised for. It was something that I did naturally, and it snowballed for the rest of my life, starting very, very, very early. And so when I was pursuing even high school, college credits, I knew that I wanted to do something in the helping field. I started in a psychology degree. Music therapy was my original focus. And we went on a little path of, bending and stretching and shifting and changing over time. But I always knew that I was meant to help other people. Clinical social worker. So yes, I do things differently from the woo-woo perspective I'm also a Reiki master. And I also have a licensed clinical therapy background where I have that psychology and understanding of the neuroscience. And so even though sometimes things can feel a little bit out there, I often ground it in science, which I think helps people who are new to some of the things that feel very natural to me in the energy work. But either way, every step of the way, mental health counseling, Reiki, becoming a counselor, becoming a coach, pediatric palliative care was actually a part of my story as well. It's always been about helping people. Even now as a person who serves only business owners, my goals are always around how many people do I want to serve and how many more people can we help in the process.
Right.
Yeah.
And these principles that you outline in your book are principles that you started applying in your own business first.
Yes.
And then it was kind of like, well, this works. I need to tell other people about it.
Well, some of them, some of the work that's in the book and the work that I teach my clients is actually clinical evidence-based knowledge, well documented. Like we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of need, if you remember. And that's something that comes very much from the psychology side of the coin. And so I implemented an understanding of Maslow's hierarchy of need in social work, but it also applies in business. And so, yes, I apply everything for myself, starting with social work, but then I move it into the business side of things too.
Oh, that's really cool. The science part of it is what always fascinates me, because I know in a couple of videos that I've seen on YouTube, and they were with these quantum physicists. Yeah, and it really gets down to the molecular level, and how we're all energy and we're all at a certain vibration and stuff like that. It's always been fascinating. So. I've really taken to energy work in this last year. It's so transformative.
I love that.
And self-awareness, being aware of how I'm acting and how I'm responding to things and stuff like that. I don't know if you can pin it down to one thing, but what's the most popular thing that you find with business owners who come to you? Like, is there a through line of things that generally just about everybody needs to work on?
Well, there's always the subject matter and then the solution. And the two most popular places we tend to go, sleep is one area that a lot of entrepreneurs really struggle with. Yeah. They're either burning the midnight oil in the evenings, or especially if they're entrepreneur parents, they might stay up late after they've had some time with their kids, and then they push their sleep much later, and they wake up early and they start it all over again. And so they're in that burnout spiral where they're not getting enough. And so managing very simple, basic things like sleep, nutrition, taking care of our bodies is something that in the traditional world of business, people are taught push, grind, go. The more you can put into your day, the better you're going to be successful. Right. There's models out there that are saying, that unless your business is your favorite child, you're not going to be successful in this world. And so don't even bother. And so those people come to me, burnout and stress. And so we got to go back to the basics, which is that bottom rung on Maslow's hierarchy of need to handle our sleep, our wellness, our physical well-being. And then we start to be able to tap into the way the brain works differently and reprogram through the brain. And the solution that is most often not known when they come to me, but is most often very successful with the entrepreneurs I serve, is the emotional freedom technique, which is putting your hands in very specific places on the body to calm the central nervous system and send messages to our organs and our thoughts and our mindset that helps us to calm and be able to think differently. In Dan Siegel's model of the brain, we got to put prefrontal cortex back online. We need to calm ourselves down. And that kind of work that we have allows us to bring ourselves back into center. And so I have lots of big burly billionaires and millionaires out there in the world tapping on their bodies. I just met with a gentleman and his whole family because he found it so effective for him. He was like, "What are you teaching me, lady?" But then he was like, "This is really good. It's actually making a difference in my life."
And does that come from Reiki? Is that?
Well, actually, so the emotional freedom technique is actually acupuncture. It's a sister of acupuncture, acupressure.
Okay.
And so it's just gentle touch on very particular areas. It's energy akin, but it's not necessarily energy work. There's Meridian, some of the same principles are involved, but it comes from acupressure.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
That is incredibly interesting. And so I'm interested in, because you said, what are you trying to teach me, lady?
Yeah.
I'm interested in how many times you, like, the looks that you get when you first say that is.
Yeah. It's not only the first time that I say it. Sometimes a client will come completely dysregulated and they know that they can bring anything that they need to our work together. But eventually, once I teach them these tools, if they start like spewing something on me that happened during their day, I'll just gently start tapping on myself and they'll be like, "Oh," the like mom kind of faces. I get those all the time. Like, what do we got to do that for? Fine, we'll do the thing. And then you see them calm down, their shoulders calm down and they relax. And even though they're still telling me the same story they were going to tell me, their tone calms, their face calms, their body calms. They're sending safety signals to their entire system as opposed to just spewing for the sake of spewing.
Right.
And so I get it even deep into the work. I get the looks. But early in my work with people, I tell them, I'm going to teach you lots of different things. Some of them you've definitely heard of before, and some of them you definitely have not heard of before. I'm not here to tell you that everything is going to work for you. I am here to help you find the thing that works for you. And so that might require us to do some new and different activities. And all I ask is for you to try it a few times. And if you truly don't like it, ditch it. And we'll find something else because there's millions of ways that we can help you to calm your central nervous system, to build your business. We're not going to use just one particular way of doing it. We're going to find your way of doing business. And so I've given them that whole spiel before we go into, okay, now put your fingers here. And so I definitely get the, okay, kind of looks like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
But the people that I work with tend to be either in such a place of desperation and such a readiness to change, and they see the results that I bring my clients that they're like, okay, if this is what they're doing, those successful people that I saw that referred me to you,
right,
I guess I'm going to do the thing.
Right.
Or they're open-minded enough. And, it's becoming more and more popular. Some of the things that I teach is becoming more and more popular and available. The emotional freedom technique is now commonly taught in schools to help kiddos with test anxiety. And so we're seeing more of these things. We're late adopters in the Western world.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It's like 2,000 years old in the Eastern tradition.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah.
We're always way late to the game when it comes to that kind
of stuff.
All the good stuff. So how does this teaching help you with in your personal life with your family?
Definitely. So, and because I teach the integrated entrepreneur, I often part of the process of being integrated is taking some things that are happening in our lives personally and borrowing what we learned personally and applying it professionally. And same thing, when we have something going on professionally, how can this positively impact us personally?
Right.
And so the most prominent way that it's used is in my household. I have a 3-year-old, a 6-year-old, and an 8-year-old. And one of my greatest mama achievements, literally, like glowing when this happened, was I teach all of the kids tapping. And one day my 8-year-old turns to me and says, "Mama, I think she needs that girl, my daughter, his sister. I think she needs some tapping." And so they know not only to see it for themselves and to use it for themselves, but they recognize and have empathy, and they can cognate enough to say that person needs it too.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And even in our marriage with my husband, he'll if he sees me as a mom begin to tap on my own body, he knows signal. warning, mom's losing it. She's overwhelmed. She needs space. So he takes them and moves them and changes the scene a little bit so that I can calm my central nervous system so that we can all be the best version of ourselves. So it's almost become a hand signal in our house. If someone is doing this.
I thought it was the signal for steal second, but I guess it's not.
Nah, don't do baseball much, but we do a lot of tapping. We're a very different kind of family.
But I think that's really amazing because there's a lot of people who don't necessarily know how to control themselves.
No.
And they can't therefore teach their kids how to control themselves.
Right.
And so this kind of learning it's good for the whole world,
Yeah.
for the whole human
Yes.
race.
I mean,
and you think about it.
I believe it.
if more people were able to calm themselves down when they're in an agitated state so that they can think clearly.
Right.
You know, how many terrible things wouldn't maybe have happened if they were able to do that.
That is why I am doing this with the speed and urgency that I am. Yeah, that literally what I was describing before is that when you have a stressful moment, this is the amygdala, the limbic system, and this is the part of the brain that is running the show.
That's the crocodilian brain,
yes,
right?
Yes, the lizard brain.
The lizard brain.
Yeah, and this is the part of the brain that has all the thinking and the emotional intelligence in it. When we get stressed, we lose our high-level thinking brain, and we're stuck with our emotional regulator. Just the one that says, are we going to die? Are we going to live?
Fight or flight.
Fight or flight, exactly. Yeah. And so when something stupid happens in our life and we flip our lid, unless we know how to bring our higher thinking brain back online, which this does in 30 seconds or less, often. Sometimes we need a little more, if I'm being honest. But when we train our bodies, this means safe, then it knows we're safe. If we can just learn how to do these types of things that calm our central nervous system, we're going to think more clearly. We're going to make better choices. We're going to use open-ended questions instead of agitation or aggression like you were describing. And I'm targeting business owners. I actually had a review on my book on Amazon that said, I wish she wouldn't have called it the integrated entrepreneur because this should be for everyone.
Right.
Because it's true. It's not a universal panacea. Tapping is only one that we're kind of focusing on right now. There's literally so many ways that we can do this. We just need to find our way and commit to it because the world depends on it. Our families, our businesses, our teams, our colleagues, our communities, we depend on it.
And when you teach these techniques to people, it's also helping them with their self-awareness, right? Because you're being able to recognize when you're going through certain things.
Right.
It's like my biggest problem was, I know I'm pissed off right now. I know I'm ranting and raving about whatever, but I'm not stepping outside of myself to analyze that and understand what's going on, because I'm so caught up in the emotion.
Right.
But if you're able to go, all right, my heart level is exactly. My pulse is up and all this kind of stuff. Obviously, I'm agitated. I need to calm down.
Right.
And to take these steps.
Yes.
And do the tapping and stuff
or whatever it is.
Yeah, or whatever it is. I know for me personally, that's we had an audiobook here last week, and we had the publisher was dialing in over Zoom. They were coming in over Zoom to coach part of the reading, and for the life of me, I could not get my software to work with Zoom. Every time I would launch it, it would crash. Oh. And I'd be like, all right, you gotta jump off and I'm going to reboot. And we ended up starting 45 minutes late. And in the past, I would have done the holy wig. I would have been it would have ruined my day. And just being mindful of the situation and, calming myself down in my own way, which is like, all right, this isn't the end of the world. Nobody's going to die.
Right.
This is just something that's not working. And you can't think clearly when you're all angry. So let's just stay calm and do a Google search and find out, how to fix this.
Yeah.
And we lost some time, but we ended up getting it to work. And
you, in the past, you would have lost a whole day.
Oh, yeah. I would have lost a whole day. I would have embarrassed myself. I would have given them, a bad impression of me because of my attitude, probably. But that's happened to me in the past where I lost it because of a piece of equipment that kept failing on me that they were like, whoa,
Yeah.
and I'm like, and that was probably like 4 or 5 years ago. And it was that point that I was like, all right, I need to get a handle on this, on this temper thing. But I'm interested in learning more about that technique, especially with now. Is that something that you can teach people like with autism or things like that? Is there? Yeah.
Thankfully, even though it looks really complex because you're seeing it for the first time, this one up here, have you ever seen one of those metal things that like massages your head?
Yeah.
That's the head meridian. That's the top central meridian. And this meridian in and of itself, it hits every point on the body. And so if you can teach a child or someone with autism to tap on their head only, they're going to get the calm down signals, and they don't need to do any of the other points. They might not get the full value, but they're going to get enough value, especially when someone is very dysregulated. I literally, you've seen a 3-year-old in a tantrum before. And she can't know to tap her own head when she's that dysregulated, but I tap on her. And she'll come to me and she knows she needs it and she'll receive it from me because she's seen it happen so many times. So even if a person can't do it for themselves, someone can do it with them or for them if they're given permission, obviously.
Right.
And so it sends those calming signals. The only thing you really need to teach is up here, or even this one's a good one for the side of the hand. It's a very full body calming signal as well. And so, the full expression, the reason we do all of the different points, it's very interesting actually, because each of the points is assigned to very specific organs and centers in the body. And each of the points is also assigned to very specific psychological issues. Like this one under here, I've taught many a pregnant woman who has a nausea. This calms the stomach down if you have nausea under here. And so I have pregnant mamas on the phone with me tapping under here because they're nauseous.
Specifically under the right eye?
No, either one.
Or just either one
under the eye. The under the eye point helps with nausea. It also helps with anxiety. And so sometimes, like I have one gentleman who's got fear of the next hole on the golf course. He famously ruins his golf game because he's thinking about hole 12 when he's on hole 11. And so we did fear of future worry point, and he does that before he gets onto the green, and he's improved his golf game even.
That's fear of future worry.
Yeah. That's a big one.
That's huge for me.
A big one for...
I'm always worried about, what's happening in 2 weeks. What's happening. I'm worried about what's happening tonight and worried about what's happening Saturday. Like I've already things that I have to do that I'm always like,
Well, now you're aware.
Now I'm aware.
And now you know there's something to do about it. And so that's taking that awareness into what can we do with this information. That's what I exist in the world for.
Have you seen anybody like at a high level board meeting and there's like something going on and you see someone start tapping? Like,
yes.
Have you seen that happen?
So, first things first, it is very camouflageable. So the way that the Eastern tradition learned about it is that they studied human behavior before they were cutting people open and looking at organs a long time ago. They would notice that when someone was feeling ashamed, they would naturally gravitate towards this part of their body. Or when they were, frustrated or they were worried. And so they noticed when someone was feeling a type of feeling, they would actually naturally gravitate their hand towards these particular areas on the body.
Interesting.
And so you can actually camouflage it. You've seen people like this at the boardroom. They're actually tapping because they're calming themselves, touching a point on their body that is sending calming signals. They're just unconsciously doing it. And so when people come to me, I observe where they're putting their hands and I'm like, well, I know that's going on. I know that's going on. I know that's going on.
Wow.
But also I teach them, notice you're doing this right now. That's a good thing. You're soothing yourself. You're calming yourself down. Now imagine if you know you're going to have a set of feelings like future worry and you can apply the pressure intentionally in that area. Imagine how much more powerful you're going to feel to proactively, consciously apply the soothe instead of waiting for your body to be so dysregulated that it needs to do it for you. And so people are doing it constantly. I've come to the point where if I have to tell you the truth, the first time someone taught me this, I was like, that is weird. I'm never doing that. But now someone cuts me off in traffic, I'm the crazy lady. I don't care who sees me do this. It has helped so many people. I've helped people quit smoking. I've helped people incredible fear of flying, take their kids to Disney on a flight for the first time because they were calming their central nervous system. I've seen people cure sciatica pain, like amazing things from this. And so I don't care. As many people can see me putting my hands on my body, the more I can help people. And so in a boardroom, if someone was pissing me off, you better believe it'd be like, tell me more about that. I want them to know, and then it becomes a conversation piece. Actually, this past week, totally by accident, and here we are again talking about it. I'm not missing that we're talking about this. That last week in front of 300 women in a speaking engagement that I was at, I taught this to all of them. And by and large, the amount of people that came up to me and asked me questions and have since texted me already said, I taught my kid, it's changed their life. It's just... people need this and they want it. They're craving quick fixes because it's very quick, very effective.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It's fun.
I didn't know I was going to learn something like that today. That's really cool. Now, and so someone taught you that.
Yeah.
It's not something that you learned in school.
Well, not at first. Not at first. It wasn't in either my undergrad or my master's program. But because it's become more popular, I have now taken a certification course in my licensing because I can maintain my license as a counselor.
Yeah. Because
I still use so many of the tools. The emotional freedom technique is becoming a licensable I became certified in it through my counseling degree, and I've studied it on my own as well. So yes. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow. That's I'm definitely going to be looking more into that. Because,
well, it's in the book, so you could you could open that sucker up again. I know it's been a while.
I know. I still have the PDF.
Yeah, there you go. It's right in there.
So what was it like when you finally got the book done and you got the audio book done, and it was like a lot of people say it's kind of like having given birth or something. Did you have that feeling of just like relief and accomplishment or were you like, question. That's done, what's the next big thing I'm going to do? Like, how do you think that way?
I usually need an exhale first.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the feeling I would describe is that I had done something when we first released it. So we spaced out the launch of the book from the audiobook. And so the first launch of that, I was terrified to put that out into the world. I shared many personal stories in it. And, there's visibility that I had to overcome in the beginning. I really, really wanted a #1 bestseller. If I'm being completely honest, that was a goal that I wanted. I wanted it to be recognized in that way. And so when it hit 5 times, I was very happy about that. And so there was like that build up, the wait. Are they going to receive it? Are those things going to happen? And then when they did, it was a very proud moment, a very celebratory moment, and then an exhale. And I knew the audiobook was coming, but I was able to put that off for a little while. And then with the audiobook, it was almost like completion. Like I did the whole thing. I gave it my all. I gave it everything. I gave it more than I imagined I was going to give it. And so now whatever the world does with it is what the world does with it. Quickly gains steam. I've been on many, many stages since then, some major stages sharing this work. And so I haven't had the full exhale of it. And interestingly, now another book idea is coming into my brain, and my team is like, do we have to do that again? I think they have a little PTSD. Like, are you sure? My husband's like, what? Are we doing a book again? So
I don't know, when you achieve and that kind of success and you feel that, you're like, I want to do that again.
Well, mine is very much from I have an idea of a way that people need to be served.
Right.
And that's really what it is. I would be dishonest if I didn't say that I'm not a high achiever. I am. I'm a high achiever. I every step of the way, I want what's next, but it is bound to in service to others. It's not personal only high achievement. See,
that's the key. Mm-hmm. That is the key that a lot of people miss, I think, is service to others.
For sure.
When you make service to others, one of your top goals, I think that you're almost guaranteed some form of success.
you're going to be happier, healthier, and wealthier in the process.
Right.
There's
success, whatever you define success to be.
There's a lesser known tip of the pyramid on Maslow's hierarchy of need that's called self-transcendence. And that's what I strive for. I'm not always successful at it, but what I strive for in self-transcendence is, even in the word self-transcendence, you're transcending yourself in service to others. So even though I had stage fright before I wrote the book. I had visibility concerns. I was terrified to share my story. The first draft of the book was very clinical and boring, frankly. And I was hiding behind my clinical side of me. When I morphed into creating stories and being more visible, I had to transcend my own fears, my own doubts, my own worries, my own ego, my own need for high achievement. Put that aside, because what I believe the world needs, what I have to offer, not because of me, but because the world needs it. Mm-hmm. And so even though I still have some of these things swimming around in my head, and I still have to do the work myself, I transcend all of that in service to the greater mission of taking care of as many people as possible.
And that vulnerability that you, like, how difficult was that for you to overcome? Just that, because I understand what it's like when just when you putting out a video like this or something. I'm like, I'm looking for the comment where it's like, who's this tool? That kind of thing. And that always used to bother me. Like when I was in radio and I would say something on the radio, and then I remember my first week in radio. When I first started doing mornings, somebody sent an email and said, you can't get through a sentence if it saved your life. And he wrote this big, long email about how terrible I was. And I was like, wow, you took time. Right. You took time to write an email about how terrible I am at my job. Thank you. I appreciate that.
How's that mirror looking, buddy?
Yeah. But that's something that I wrestle with all the time when I know I have to put myself out there, like going to networking events and talking with people or giving a speech or something, public speaking. Like that's always difficult just because I'm always worried about what other people think.
It is a very common affliction. And that self-transcendence piece really does, when you lean into what's more important here. My own fears of vulnerability, or the people needing this work.
Right.
When you can get there, that's honestly, I'm not blowing smoke. That's exactly what helped me get on the other side. It wasn't it was painful sometimes. I remember my publisher telling me, this is going to feel like opening the kimono, is what she would often say when we were doing coaching sessions about the writing that I was doing. And I was like, yes, it does. It feels very exposing, feels very vulnerable. And there were layers to it, because if you can imagine, I'm sharing personal stories that affect family members and friends and clients. There was actually, because I'm a trained mental health therapist, there was a whole layer of vulnerability that I had to go through, which was I was taught to not share my HIPAA. I was taught not to share my client stories. And in counseling, transference, countertransference, and keeping yourself out of the situation as best possible. Like, this is their therapy, not your own. And so you are taught to check yourself at the door and to keep your mouth shut about everything you're doing, or else. And so as a coach, that is not the same world.
Yeah.
And I'm no longer a counselor. I am a coach. And so I had to go through this process of asking my clients. I was terrified. I asked about 20 clients how they would feel about sharing their story, and every single one of them said, whatever you are doing, whatever you need to share. And sure, use my name. There was a few that said, maintain my confidentiality. Sure. But every single one of them said a resounding yes, which was this healing of my own vulnerability, because I had made these stories up as a counselor that we were not allowed to share other people's stories or wins that was theirs. But these people knew that I was sharing in service to others. Yep. And they believed that sharing that story was going to benefit another person. And so they gave me that permission, which healed part of it. And so there's a saying, coaching is like the way through through the problem is through the problem. And so you hit that vulnerability head on, and instead of worrying about what other people think of you or getting the bad comment, there's a world where receiving that bad comment, that there's an opportunity for growth for you. And you can either suffer that some butthead gave you bad feedback, or you can say, what in this is true and what in this is false? How do I feel right now about this comment? And what does that say about my own personal development? What is coming up to be healed right now? So everything that happens, even if it's seemingly negative, can become a teacher. And that just works better than leaning into suffering and the why me, oh no, I'm terrible. That doesn't serve us very well. And it certainly doesn't bring our mission more into the world.
That's a very good point. And that's something that I've been working on too, like that negative self-talk. What good is that doing it? The story that we tell ourselves about us.
Yeah.
You know, it was really hard to start changing that. But one thing that helped was this.
Yeah, I bet.
I got to meet you. I got to meet a lot of people who do amazing things like you do, and their onus is to help people.
Yeah.
And I mean, that is just, it's fantastic.
Yeah, you get like a lot of free personal development, don't you?
I do. I really do.
You get paid for personal development.
Right. And but now I'm actually paying attention to it.
Good.
And now I'm actually like,
I remember you telling me
following
that.
this.
Yeah.
Because for a while I'd hear it and I'd be like, oh yeah, that's cool, but I'd still go along my merry way doing my stupid things.
Or focus on the tech side of things rather than just
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now it's like, listen to what this person is saying, and and I think opening my mind to other ideas over the last couple of years has been big too.
I bet.
And I think there's a lot of, that's why I feel bad when I say, when I first refer to something as woo woo. I just do that because I know that there's a section of people that think that way.
Yeah.
I don't anymore. You can prove, like you said, with science, that this stuff works, and you can see the results. One question I did have about, what you do when you're dealing with a client, or even when you were a counselor and therapist, was it difficult to not, because you're highly empathic, so to not take those bad feelings and those bad stories and take them too close to heart, so that when you go home, they're bothering you and you're feeling the pain of others?
I am highly empathic to an extreme. And that's one of the things that makes me as powerful as I am at what I do. I started my career in pediatric palliative care. And so for people who don't know, pediatric palliative care is basically hospice for children. Sometimes, it's not always that way, but sometimes we would bring a child on who had a serious illness, and they would die. And sometimes they would come in and they would get recovery and care, and they would live. But it was a roller coaster. I was early in my 20s, and I fought for that position because these humans that take care of these kiddos are incredible practitioners.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a part of something so amazing. And the work felt so meaningful. And I give so much credit to my abilities now to that experience early in my work, including when it comes to being empathic. In that phase of my career, in my early 20s, when I was dealing with death and dying and disease and sibling loss and all these things, I was not as good at managing my empathic self. I now know, hindsight is 20/20, that I was brought to that work to know that about myself, to learn. I didn't even know I was an empath when I was in my early 20s. I didn't. I was just like, why does this hurt so bad?
Yeah.
Why am I feeling why am I on the floor crying after a funeral? Well, this is not good. This is not sustainable. These are not my deaths. These are their families are the ones that are meant to be grieving. Why am I grieving so acutely? Why does this hurt my body? And so I got very curious, and I learned, and I decided I need to learn how to better protect myself, but also in order to serve the clients, I needed to learn to create some separation here. And that actually is where Reiki came from. Reiki, for me, first was self-preservation. It was because I needed to find a way to heal my energy and protect myself emotionally and logistically, it turned out, in order to do the work that I was doing. And so Reiki was something that was very personal for me in the beginning. It was just like, I'm going to do Reiki for myself so that I can do my work. And, you know, as any good story goes, I now know that I needed to do both of those things so that I can do what I do now. And so the long-winded answer to your question is, I don't feel it in the same way. I am still able to apply empathy and to meet people in what they're going through enough to draw them into a higher headspace or spiritual space or financial space with them. But I've learned how to create enough spiritual, emotional, mental, logistical, physical separation from them that I don't take on those emotions in the same way. And actually, one whole psychographic of people that come to me are empaths who've not learned how to do what I know how to do now.
Interesting.
Because they exist out there. They're suffering. And so
Yeah.
people naturally gravitate towards me because they know I'm empathic. They can see that I actually care about people, but I don't allow their stories to become a part of my central nervous system or my family later on. I don't suffer anymore. And so that's another reason I exist in the world, is to help those people who've not learned these tools or not. You know, I have an empathic son who I'm glad now he has me as a mama. He probably is empathic because I'm his mama.
Right.
But to be able to teach him those tools early, because these are things that are not taught in school, unfortunately. Emotional intelligence, regulation, central nervous system regulation, these are not things that are taught enough in school. We've gotten better, but not enough for those highly sensitive, highly acutely sensitive people who need to learn how to turn what sometimes feels like a cross to bear. It literally was painful into a superpower. Because I'm in superpower status with empathy. I can turn it on in service to people. I can read things that other people can't see, but I also can keep myself safe, which allows me to be super effective for humans.
It's really interesting how there's not much. There's not much. We're not taught much about being human, are we?
No.
Like you have to sort of
learn the
figure
math
it out
and the sciences.
Yeah, you know, but there's so much, just, you know, emotional intelligence, the one thing, and just it
seems like a disservice, doesn't it?
It does. It's just mind-boggling that as human beings, we grow up and go through our lives not ever learning, or very rarely ever learning, how to be human.
Yeah, I know. It's so true.
And embracing these things, because you're right. Like, what was the book? It was like, it was about not every kid is going to be good in school, and they have different strengths. Like some kids might be better at the arts. Some kids are better at science, and so teach them according to where their gifts are, rather than the box you want to put them in.
Yeah.
There should be there should be a school. Maybe
shouldn't be just one school.
Well, I'm just saying.
I see what you mean, though. Yeah, for sure.
There should a school system.
It should be in the curriculum, because that's the thing, is that I do believe a lot of the helpers, the teachers in the world, they come to teaching with a really heart-centered mission to help teach the future generations, and then they're measured against test scores and standardized testing, and you need to get this much done in this amount of time and this many contract hours. And so that box is actually the standardization for the teachers, and they end up just like, okay, I'll do the thing, and some of the magic of the human nuance is lost in the spirit of making sure that kids pass those standardized. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Now, in Eastern civilizations, they do more of what you're talking about.
They do.
And I've always been fascinated by that when, you know, you're talking about that. This is thousands of years old. Like, this is not new over there, but over here, nobody knows what you're talking about. How can that be fixed? Is there a way? Is there?
Well, this podcast, right?
just teaching people, letting them know that it exists, letting them know that there's a possibility.
That's self-transcendence. That's exactly what I mean, is that I used to feel uncomfortable, even at the idea of tapping. I'm transcending that in service to the fact that we are way behind and people are suffering. People are suffering. And so if there are simple ways that we can teach humanness to individuals, it's become my responsibility. It's no longer about me. It's my responsibility because I have this wisdom, sort of a strange word, but it is. It's ancient wisdom has been gifted to me first so that I could steward my own body and self and service to others. I feel like it's my personal responsibility to bring it to as many people as possible because it's new to them and they need it so desperately. And so, that's why we sign up for as many speaking engagements and we write the books and we get on the podcasts. When we have something that we know people need, we bring it to them as best possible. Different people find different ways to do that. Advocacy, political advocacy, foundations. There's tons and tons of ways to do it. It's just, this is my contribution to making it so that that's no longer the case.
It's amazing how your path, when you look back in hindsight, like you said, when you had that job in your 20s and you didn't realize it until now that that job was so that you could get to where you are now. And that's just like a perfect little example of our lives in, from a global view looking down, like everything you did on that path has brought you to where you are. And you see, I had a job that was really difficult for me to get there. I still have the sort of residual PTSD from this job that my boss was so terrible with us. And now I use that as kind of like a way to not do things. Like, this is how you don't lead a team. This is how you don't run, projects and things like that. And it was something that I had to go through to learn all of those things. Would have been nice if I didn't have to go through all that.
Most of us have to learn the hard way. There's very few out there that are just wisping along in life, knowing everything and everything goes perfectly according to plan. Most people need to learn by what didn't work.
Well, this has been very, very enlightening. I learned a lot, and which is not a surprise. How do people find you if they would like to work with you?
Yeah. So the integratedentrepreneur.com is the website. It's the book. It's the program. It's the Instagram. So you can find me and everything I do at theintegratedentrepreneur.com and all the socials. Easy peasy. Yeah.
And what's coming up? I know you said you're thinking about another book.
Yeah. I mean, that is a seedling idea.
All right. So this has to be watered. Okay.
This is mostly still on the book tour from the Integrated Entrepreneur. It's continuing to snowball. I have programs that I'm serving in this subject matter for entrepreneurs, speaking engagements and book clubs, and lots of bringing this message to as many people as possible. So we're still riding that wave, and the next wave is starting to germinate as well.
Do you go and speak at like companies, like a company would hire you to come in and talk to their team?
I was there last week. Yeah, I work for, there's lots of conferences in the entrepreneurial world that I'll get brought on for a keynote, smaller networking groups, BNIs, companies, large agencies, small businesses, and anywhere in between.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, honored that you took the time to come here.
Thank you for having me.
Chat with me and blather. Please do yourself a favor. Why chat? Do yourself a favor and get in touch with Raeanne because, come on. Did you not hear what we were talking about? There is some really, really exciting information in that book. And if you're not a reader like me, listen with the audiobook. And you did a fantastic job with that audiobook. Really.
It was touch and go a couple times there.
I don't know. Maybe from your point of view, but from my point of view, you crushed it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much again for coming in. And thank you all for joining me on Positive Blatherings. And we'll catch you the next time. See you.